Goes with the layoff to Paul McStay. And a great goal from McStay. Possession, here's Paul McStay. Away from McKinnon. There's the equaliser.
He's one of the few players that can orchestrate a game. He plays the game when he's at his best. He plays the game with a great passion. But he's always managed to maintain his own standards, which have been very high. And if he's had poorer seasons recently, then I would think that down to the fact that he set such a high standard for himself through many years as a Celtic first-team player.
Paul McStay.
Celtic's 2-0 victory over Rangers in August 1994 was notable not only for magnificent goals from McStay and Collins, it was also the first league game in which Celtic wore numbers on the back of their jerseys. However, Rangers were only too aware of the capabilities of Celtic's number 11. The infamous lockout game at Ibrox in April 1994 was memorable for another strike from the Predator in front of 45,000 stunned Rangers fans.
Celtic could really silence this huge crowd here. It's Collins. It's a magnificent goal by John Collins.
Earlier in that same season, Collins had netted another Old Firm goal, interestingly giving 3 different Rangers goalkeepers nightmares within the space of a year.
Chance on here for Collins, he must score. And John Collins puts Celtic right back into the game. This will be a testing moment for Ali Maxwell. It's the in-swinger, he's under pressure and Celtic have scored!
Perhaps the most memorable Celtic victory of recent years was their St Patrick's Day triumph in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. In an often ill-tempered affair, Celtic emerged with credit for retaining their composure.
Coyne got a touch, there's Craney! Celtic are ahead! It's Jerry Craney! It's a dub check with the free kick. That's well struck and deflected! 2-0 to Celtic! Darius Dubček takes the credit!
Still to come, Celtic legend Willie Wallace and Tommy Burns on the current Celtic. First, the story of one of the club's finest European performances. Fear of flying is a common phobia which can affect anyone who's experienced the terror of a near disaster. For a modern footballer, it can be a severe handicap.
I think everybody has a sort of a fear. I mean, I think everybody's got a slight percentage of fear of flying, and I think I've got more than a percentage. I think before I go to an away game, like to go to the continent, maybe at night. I don't go to sleep, for hours, and then just actually think about the actual flight, of what things that could happen in that.
Jimmy Johnston's fear of flying would prove to be crucial in 1968 when Celtic faced the Yugoslav champions in the second round of the European Cup. The performance of Jinky that night was outstanding, a breathtaking individual display inspired by the cunning of Jock Stein.
And Big Jock says at half-time, he says if we win by 4 goals or more, he says, you don't have to come to the return match. I thought he was kind of says, you joking? He says, no, I promise you.
It was typical of Stein, who intuitively knew how to get the best performance out of his players and found original ways of motivating them. Unfortunately, all that remains of that game are these flickering images recorded by an amateur cameraman from a TV set after the game. Nonetheless, it gives us a rare, if somewhat unclear, record of that magnificent performance. Bobby Murdoch opened the scoring, and it was level at half-time. Jinky, thinking about Steen's half-time talk, ran riot, scoring the second goal to put Celtic in front. For the next, he threaded the ball through to Bobby Lennox, who scored with ease. Johnston tormented the Slav defence and set up the fourth goal for Wallace with a header into his path. But the best was saved for last with a fine move from deep within Celtic's own half. Jinky left two defenders for dead to score spectacularly for the final goal, setting the seal on a wonderful display of open attacking football.
I scored the fifth one. I was running back and the boys were running about me and I'm shouting, I don't need to go, I don't need to go. And they're wondering what was up with this. But they found out later. But the big man and his wife, he stole the following day, came to me and he says, look, you've got to go to... she was always thinking, you know, but he says, you'll need to go to Red Star Belgrade. He says, where's? He says, the coach says that you've got to go and let the people see you. The people of Belgrade, you know, so he was trying to pull a stroke again.
1995 saw the 10th anniversary of Jock Steen's death. Under his colossal influence, Celtic achieved undreamt of success. He was undoubtedly one of the greatest managers the game has ever known.
He knows his football game. Without a doubt, he has the brains. He brought old Celtic fame. Big Jock, manager of Celtic.
I started out just a part-time player playing in Dunfermline and I was a minor, so my sights couldn't be too high. I had to be really humble for anything that came out of anything at that particular time.
I think that you're just about the last man looking at you superficially that many people would see as a master of the sort of sophisticated techniques that you employ. You're part coach, part psychologist, part organiser. But this does seem to be all in the makeup of your job, isn't it?
You have to be a wee bit of all the things that you say, but nowadays there are too many gimmicks and too many words used about people. I think we've just got to have common sense. It's as simple as that.
He applied the same logic to his footballing philosophy.
The only thing I'm looking for is playing the game of football the way that people want to see it. Less defensive attitudes and going forward. We go forward. We've always gone forward. I'd like to see more teams doing that. I'd like to see more positive play on the field. As simple as that.
It was the triumphant lifting of the European Cup in 1967, a prize which had eluded the most powerful British clubs, that set Steen apart from all others. The fact that he sustained the success he brought to Celtic, winning 10 championships and countless other honours, served to emphasise the immense talents of the big man.
All I try to do is to try and work for the players, because after all, the players work for me when they're on the field. I do my best for them off the field. I expect the same from them on the field. I don't treat them just like players. I like to think that I'm part of them and they're part of the club that they play for. Probably this is the return I get.
I mean, he's unafraid of anything. Yeah. And this is what you've got to be. You've got know-how, then that's the recipe. Steen's a remarkable man. Yeah. But everything seems to be natural to him. He seems to do the right things at the right time. And whilst he can tear a strip of you and all, and people think he's maybe lost his head, within that, he hasn't. He knows what he's saying. Yeah. A real remarkable man, yeah. One of the most remarkable men that's ever been in the game.
Jock Steen stepped aside as Celtic manager in 1978. In August of that year, his testimonial match was played at Parkhead in front of 63,000 supporters. It was the end of an era. Celtic supporters are renowned for turning out in large numbers for testimonial matches, a fact that's been taken advantage of by a number of English players who've invited Celtic to play. At Parkhead, testimonial matches for Billy McNeill, Danny McGrain and Tommy Burns have attracted huge crowds. One of the most memorable was the match for Bobby Lennox and Jimmy Johnston.
Well, that was another pouring wet day, you know, and went into town, Jimmy and I, for a meal just at 5 o'clock, and he was down in the dumps. He's a bit more of a worrier than me, you know, and there was nobody there, there was nobody there. I said, but I'm coming to see you, and she said, and hopefully I'll get a goal or whatever, you know, and we came here and it was incredible. That was 50,000, I think.
That is one of the nights you talk about games to remember. I'll never ever forget. And I felt, as you probably know, at the end of the match, I felt what I wanted to do, and I wasn't impulsive. I had made up my mind before the match what I was going to do, and I'd say to Bobby, I want to do a wee special thing, and I tell him, I says, don't mind, no, I don't want to upstage you any way or no, because we were never like that. The whole side, we never thought we were better than another or whatever. We all gelled, we all complimented each other. He says, you're joking, and he says, carry on. And that's wee Bobby, but he's tremendous, great wee guy. And when the game was finished, I just took my boots off and ran out in the jungle, and I felt it was fitting just to give them something to remember me by, and I threw them in.
Try to explain to people in England, you know, about testimonials and things like that. If a testimonial game at Celtic, the numbers of people that turn up, if you get a testimonial for a guy that's played 10 years with a team in England, you had 2,000 and 3,000 people turning up to watch it. And I didn't understand that when I went down. I thought, that's weird. But it's not actually. What is weird is what Celtic supporters do, or what Celtic supporters feel about their team.
Davy Provan was honoured in 1987 after his career was cut short by illness.
I think that has to go down as the most emotional night of my life, certainly. I remember driving up to the match, and it was -7 degrees in Glasgow that night, November the 30th. And I remember thinking, are we really struggling to get a decent crowd here? And driving up London Road, and having done it for so many years, you can tell when there's a big crowd on the way to the ground, and I knew there was a big crowd. But I couldn't believe it when I actually ran out the tunnel for the first time that night, that the ground was full. There was 45,000 people there. It made me feel very humble that so many people had bothered to turn out on a very cold evening for me. And even people like Kenny Dalglish, who came up and put on a Celtic jersey for the first time since he had left for Liverpool. So yeah, that was very memorable. Certainly the most emotional night of my life.
Pat Bonner's testimonial match saw Jack Charlton bring a Republic of Ireland 11 to Celtic Park.
To bring an Irish team over here, an Irish international team over here to play my club team, Celtic, who have got tremendous Irish background anyway. It was a special, very, very emotional occasion, and Celtic won the game.
In front of 40,000 supporters, Celtic won 3-2, with Jerry Craney scoring a hat-trick. Undoubtedly the most memorable testimonial match in which Celtic have been involved took place in the Bernabeu Stadium in June 1967 in honour of Alfredo Di Stefano.
That was outstanding. It was the whole occasion, about the whole atmosphere, about 130,000 in the Bernabeu, and you were playing. I mean, that was the side, Real Madrid. I mean, they were a class act.
Johnson back very deep. Real really have no answer when he runs at them. We don't see this too much in European football. Johnson going right. Oh, I'll pass through to Lennox. Lennox shoots and scores. Faint-hearted appeal for offside, but he beat the trap. 1-0.
This was billed as the European Cup final because they'd won the European Cup so often. And me, Jimmy, was just absolutely magnificent that night. I mean, it was a real needle game. Berry gets sent off, and I think it was a man shooting off him. And it was a real needle game. And then me, Jimmy, did a bit, and I scored the goal. And that pleased me as well. I was scoring the goal in the Bernabeu, you know. But that was, I think that was the night we realised, you know, by the way, we're the best in Europe now.
Still to come, 4 goals for one player in an amazing European tie. The year Celtic met a cynical Atletico Madrid and our own Celtic Braveheart. But first, without doubt, the most dramatic game ever played at Celtic Park. Billy McNeill was appointed manager in 1978 to the acclaim of supporters. On his return, however, he found a side which had lost something in terms of pride and confidence. Despite that early victory over Rangers, they only managed 7 wins in their first 18 matches. The game which would prove crucial was a postponed fixture with Rangers.
At the time, I was annoyed that the game went off because they'd had a European match in midweek, and I felt that we had just a slight bit of advantage there, but they called it off, and I think it worked against them because lo and behold they had a little bit of a fixture pile up at the end of the season. But we got the team started to play and started to respond and started to work very well.
Bobby Lennox returned from US Soccer, Murdo McLeod was drafted in from Dumbarton, and Davy Provan arrived from Kilmarnock. As Christmas approached, a severe winter meant no games were played until the following March.
You know, that second half of the season was excellent for us, and I could see us just picking up the wee point, and we just get closer and closer to them. And then lo and behold, they needed a draw here to win the league, and obviously we needed a victory to do likewise.
It was such a big moment for players like myself and Murdo McLeod, who had come from smaller clubs and found ourselves prior to that game on the brink of winning a Premier Division medal, winner's medal. The game itself was just the most remarkable emotional roller coaster of my playing career.
Due to a technician's dispute, that dramatic encounter was unfortunately never recorded. Thankfully, an amateur cameraman filmed the game, and this rare black and white footage is all that now exists of that historic game.
We lost a very early goal to Alex McDonald after, I think, 10 minutes. And I remember going in at half-time, and normally if you're 1 down in an Old Firm game, Billy McNeill would be trying to motivate us, if I could put it very politely. But he would be reading the riot act and trying to lift us, and he spent the whole of that half-time that night trying to calm us down. There was so much adrenaline going, there was so much spirit in that team that we couldn't wait to get back out and get started again. Unfortunately, shortly after the second half began, we lost John Doyle, who was sent off. So there we were with only 35 minutes to play, 1 down, only 10 men, playing for the championship.
Everybody thought, well, that was our chance out the window. But we fought back, we battled back as we did often in these days with 10 men.
It was the spirit of the lads, and I remember Davy Provan that night. We went down to 10 men, and I remember Davy Provan, who just seemed to cover like the rest of the lads, covered every blade of glass in the place. And I remember chasing through. He ended up chasing an attacker through and getting a good tackle in, and I said to myself, God almighty, Davy, how does he manage that? It was the spirit, the appetite, and I think the fans as well.
Roy Aitken got us an equaliser in, I think, 66 minutes. George McCluskey put us ahead 8 minutes later. And at that stage we thought we had done it, we'd won the championship. But the script wasn't complete because almost immediately Rangers forced a corner. The ball broke to Bobby Russell on the edge of the box, and although we had everybody back in the box, somehow we managed to thread it in at Peter Latchford's right-hand post. So we were back to square one, 2-2 with about 13 minutes to go.
You never thought at any time we were going to lose a game, but we just kept on going forward, pushing it in. Colin Jackson scored an own goal. And we kept on pushing for it. It wasn't one we were going to sit in and hope the game was going to finish at 3-2.
And in the dying seconds of the game, Murdo McLeod, I remember picking the ball up round about the halfway line, running forward with it. And we knew there wasn't long to go. I was on his left-hand side and I was screaming at Murdo to give me the ball and I could take it into the corner and waste a few precious moments. The ball never arrived because Murdo smashed the ball into the top corner from 25 yards. And we knew at that stage that we'd won the championship. And it was just a remarkable night.
Celtic had won their 31st championship in the most dramatic fashion, beating a Rangers side which had been on course for a treble. A crowd of over 50,000 ecstatic supporters celebrated what was a famous victory and a major achievement.
I mean, even when we were done, you know, everyone kind of thought we were going to do it, you know. There was a real hope about it all, and down to 10 men, still thought, oh, we can still do this. But when it actually happened, we ended up dancing about and hugging people we didn't know. It was quite incredible.
Celtic often have the wee fairy tale results. I think that was one of them. But it was a marvellous achievement, but that particular night was just absolutely tremendous.
I always remember the late Desmond White in the dressing room after the game, saying that it was the club's finest hour since Lisbon. And I think that's as high a compliment as he could have paid that team. And the dressing room afterwards, I remember Jimmy Johnson and Bobby Murdoch and a lot of the older Celtic players who had been there that evening being in the dressing room, and it was just a real Celtic celebration and just a wonderful night.
I mean, as much as the game, which was as close to a religious experience you can get with football, I can remember walking out after the game and everyone was funneled down towards Belgrove Station. I was looking for the train station, I went towards Belgrove Station. You had no choice. The flow of people that night, there just seemed to be hundreds of thousands there, and the singing kept all the way to the station. I mean, it's a good few miles that walk, you know, and the whole way there, and then we got on the train, and everybody was still singing on the train, you know, and I'd never known a Celtic match at all like that. I'd never known a football match like that where the singing kept on going for an hour and a half after the game. People just walking along the road, you know. Fantastic night, it was unbelievable.
Still to come, Tommy Burns on the future of Celtic and more European action. First, we look at another great Scottish hero, William Wallace. Celtic's own Braveheart joined the club in December 1966 and would play a crucial part in their finest season ever.
There's Wallace. A brilliant goal.
Wallace jumping and he scores.
As a prolific goalscorer for Hearts, Celtic had already been made aware of his talents. Jock Stein had beaten Rangers to sign the lifelong Gers fan. With a subsequent injury to top scorer Joe McBride, it would prove to be a fortuitous piece of business. He'll be remembered in particular for 2 goals which helped Celtic to their first ever European final.
And it's a goal by Wallace! Wallace's second goal!
Within a month of the Dukla Prague game, Wispy, as he was known to his teammates, scored another 2 goals to beat Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final. Only 10 days previously, he'd appeared for Scotland in a famous victory over World Cup holders England. The following month would see him in Lisbon.
Wallace.
Hard-working, brave and skillful, Wallace was a committed and prolific scorer with 135 goals in his 5 years with the club.
Wallace. It's a goal from a possible angle.
And now a performance that's remembered as one of the most disgraceful in the annals of European competition, when a cynical Atletico Madrid visited Celtic Park.
Diaz jumps the clock down, and that's Benegas, number 4.
Atletico hacked and tried to intimidate the Celtic players, who emerged with credit for not retaliating to such provocation. Jimmy Johnston was the main target for a barrage of assaults, which made it impossible to play football.
Diaz is in trouble, and Diaz is off. 2 players off in 2 minutes. Logan to Johnston, and that's it, it's all over. And look at the Atletico players, absolutely jubilant. But they win no medals for sportsmanship here at Parkhead tonight. They think they've won the tie. 9 players booked in the Atletico side, 3 ordered off. There's real trouble there on the far side. Atletico want to have a go.
UEFA fined Atletico and banned 6 players from the return leg, prior to which Jimmy Johnston had received a death threat. Celtic lost the game to 2 late goals, but emerged with credit for keeping their cool. Now one of the most dramatic European ties of all time. Celtic returned from Yugoslavia after a 2-1 defeat at the hands of a Partizan Belgrade team, which included Gordan Petric and was managed by Ivan Golac.
The lead in the away leg and a 3-1 advantage on the tie altogether. McStay looking for Elliott, found him and a good flick on, and Jakanowski gets the goal. The Pole scores against the Yugoslavs and the Scots go mad. Walker, Grant, it's gone loose and it's gone in. The Pole has done it again. Jurovski setting up the chance, which is taken. And no wonder there's a cartwheel from Djordjevic. Galloway, Elliott, didn't fall too kindly. Galloway goes back inside. Tries to set up Aitken and has done so. And here's the chance! Oh, and what a rifling shot by Jakanowski. Milojevic through the middle, and the offside trap is beaten. Jurovski scores! He's away this time, the Pole, and it's gone in from Walker! This is unbelievable stuff! Petric looking to set up an attack immediately. This is Galloway. Oh, and it's got a touch in, and it's the Pole again! It's the Pole again! Jakanowski. Spasic. Jurovski, and it's in! It's in!
Partizan's goal in the last minute meant that despite scoring 5 times in the tie, Celtic went out on away goals. Jackie's 4 goals, the best ever from a Celtic player in Europe. In 1965, Celtic's new young manager, an ex-player, led the club to Scottish Cup success after a long barren spell. Only 2 years later, Celtic won every trophy for which they competed and added the European Cup to a magnificent trophy collection. Successive Celtic sides under Jock Stein dominated the Scottish game. His achievements will probably never be equalled. His influence was immeasurable.
When I came here as a 15-year-old onto the ground staff, his very presence would make people stand up and take notice. He'd done everything. He'd won umpteen league championships in a row. He'd won Scottish Cups, League Cups, European Cup, getting to the final European Cup yet again. So he'd done unbelievable things, and I think once you've achieved that type of reward and accolades, if you like, then I think everybody sits up and takes notice of you, and they realise that you're something special. He was something very, very special to this club. And whatever he said went, for first team, reserve team, youth team, anywhere. I think he got to the stage where, you know, he could have told you to do anything, you would just have done it because he said to do it, and that was the time. You wouldn't have thought anything of it, that was it. Mr. Stein said that you do it, and that was the way it was then. But it's certainly a remarkable man.
Steen was succeeded by his former team captain, Billy McNeill, who achieved success in both spells as manager. When he left in '91, Liam Brady was appointed boss. The former Irish international failed to find success. Lou Macari was appointed manager by a board struggling to retain control. His time was short-lived, and Tommy Burns took charge in July 1994. He was under no illusions about the enormity of the task with which he'd been charged.
But we knew it would be a long, hard task to try and put Celtic Football Club right. And we look back at the condition and the state the club was in when we took over. And we're ready to do that. But it has to be done gradually, there's no magic wand. Basically we came into the club and we're under extreme pressure. I don't think there's any getting away from that, as much as we try to look at it pragmatically and every otherwise. To win something very, very quickly. Otherwise we would have probably went the same road as the previous people that were here.
Tommy's first season in charge, convincingly draw at Falkirk. An extended unbeaten run included victories over Rangers and Motherwell, with new signing Phil O'Donnell making an immediate impact.
O'Donnell's through. This is Grant. Laid off by Collins to Nicholas. Good play. Peter Grant gets a touch as Collins. It's a magnificent goal.
As October came, however, Celtic failed to carve out the victories necessary to mount a sustained challenge.
In the clear here, though, chance for Celtic. Superbly finished by Andy Walker.
Celtic's goals began to dry up, and their 11-game unbeaten run ended with defeats by Hearts, Falkirk and Rangers, which seriously dented their hopes. 6 consecutive draws and 11 games without a win, the worst run in the club's history, effectively ended Celtic's bid to claim the league flag before Christmas.
The biggest disappointment to us last year was our inconsistency in the league. We want to go and be competitive over 36 league games and do our best, and I think that's where you see the real mettle of a team. And once we do that, then it's another stage further, because in the last 5-6 years we haven't been competitive in the league, and we've lost it well beyond January. And now we want to go and, as I say, take it right to the end. And that's all we can hope for, is that we can go and compete right to the death. And I don't think there's anything written in stone that says we're going to suddenly turn Celtic Football Club into a team that wins every game, every week, every season. It's going to be done slowly, and we'll get our setbacks, we'll get our defeats and disappointments. That is part of football, but ultimately we'll get to where we want to be.
After the catastrophe that was the Coca-Cola Cup final, Burns was prompted to make changes and blood some of the promising youngsters in the squad.
Jinking and turning and looking for an opening inside the area. Tackled by Fullerton, reaches Boyd. Ball played across, and a superb header there by Willie Faulkner.
It was in the Scottish Cup that Celtic played their best football, and the same competition would make an instant hero of Dutch signing Pierre van Hooijdonk. Signed from Breda in January, the 6'5" Dutchman scored spectacularly on his debut against Hearts and netted twice against Meadowbank Thistle in the Cup.
Out it comes to Collins. Delightful finish from Collins. Measured into the corner.
After disposing of Kilmarnock, Celtic defeated Hibs in a semi-final replay to set up a cup final clash with First Division Airdrie.
That's for Van Hooijdonk. Great header, and Celtic are ahead. Pierre Van Hooijdonk scores his 8th goal in Celtic colours and sets the cup final alight.
Van Hooijdonk wasn't the only hero that day. Peter Grant, an injury doubt prior to the game, had an outstanding 90 minutes.
It was tremendous to come off a winner's medal again. And I think that was the biggest thing. People talk about the man of the match. Yes, it was smashing as a personal thing, but the most important thing was that we won the cup again. To see the look on the people's faces in the terrace, and to see the sheer relief on their faces, you know, was something that'll live with me for the rest of my days, no matter how much I achieve in the game from now till I finish playing. But that's one day it'll always stick in my mind.
The streets were mobbed as Celtic, after so many years in the wilderness, brought the Scottish Cup home to rest in paradise.
And I feel that, again, having a positive outlook is regarding the future of Celtic Football Club. The history and the tradition is something that we will never lose, but we've got to go and make more memorable nights, win more trophies, and have more memorable European runs, and get a modern tradition, if you like, as opposed to living off of what had went before.
The process of restoring Celtic's fortunes will not be achieved overnight, but with the progress that's been made since Fergus McCann took control of the club, supporters are more optimistic about the prospect of a sustained challenge to Rangers' domination. The return of European football to Parkhead has also been encouraging. Convincing victories home and away against Dinamo Batumi set up a difficult second-round tie with Paris Saint-Germain. A sellout crowd watched as the game was beamed live to Celtic Park.
I think we should always look on our club as unique and different for everybody else, because it is different for everybody else. Support are different entirely. They're unique. The football club's unique. Ultimately, we'll live or die by a result on a Saturday, but I would prefer that my time here is spent for the good of Celtic Football Club long term, as opposed to myself as an individual. My message to the supporters will always be the same, that we love you dearly, and we'll look after your football club for you.
Let me thank you for your support, to tell you how much we love you, and you'll never walk alone. God bless you, Celtic.
I feel good. I knew that I would. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good, so good. I got you. Wow, I feel nice. A sugar and spice. I feel nice. A sugar and spice. So nice, so nice. I got you. When I hold you in my arms, I know that I can't do no wrong. And when I hold you in my arms, my love can't do me no harm. And I feel nice, a sugar and spice. I feel nice, a sugar and spice. So nice, so nice, that I got you. Wow, and I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I would. So good, but I got you. So good, but I got you. So good, but I got you.
A freezing night in December, and a host of well-known faces from the sporting world and beyond gather to pay tribute to an all-time Celtic great. Despite thick fog and travel delays, Alec Ferguson and his Manchester United side finally arrived to provide the opposition for Paul McStay's testimonial match. It was a very special night for the Celtic captain, marking his 14th year as a first-team player. As the teams prepared for the game, there was time for some of those who have played with the maestro to reflect on his career.
Because I've carried Paul, I've made him a millionaire, and then I can't go out and do the business on the park, like, you know what I mean? So it's a bit unfortunate, you know. I've made him a millionaire. There's another one. I've made a millionaire. He can't really good. Another one's going. McStay, I don't know. He's another one. The McStay, I've definitely made a millionaire. As I say, I'm disappointed that I can't. For the first time we'll really be caught out in his life, you know what I mean? And then that'll be the rest of it. Thanks, Paul. You'll talk to that. And Brian Neal's back, so I'm delighted I'm not fit. I think the supporters are very keen. I think they've showed that the numbers have turned up to buy tickets. Some of them have queued for hours out there. So it'll be a real Celtic occasion, and it's one I'm sure the whole McStay family, particularly Paul, I look forward to very, very much.
What's it like to play alongside a Celtic legend like Andy Walker? He's some player, isn't he?
Definitely. I just hope you run fast and score goals. Run fast, score goals. That's
goal, pressure on regardless.
A capacity crowd greeted Paul as he took the part with daughters Siobhan and Melissa for one of the most memorable occasions of a distinguished career.
A very emotional time, and I think what hit me most the night of the game against Manchester was the feeling that, well, maybe these fans were here to support Paul McStay on the night, because all right through my career it's been the team, and that's the way it should be. But for that one night, a special night, as I said, it was quite emotional, tell you that.
Paul's Parkhead career began at an early age. While still at school, he already trained at Celtic Park, and the Celtic manager of the time had no doubt about where his future lay.
I spoke to his teachers and they said, look, Paul's not really an academic, you know. He says, so we hope he makes it in football. I said, well, I think he's a certainty. So we got him released from school about 6 months early, basically on a work experience situation. So in actual fact, Paul was at Celtic Park, maybe learning the first stages of his apprenticeship when he should still have been at school.
The young McStay stood out among a rake of talented youngsters, which included his elder brother Willie.
When he came in, I was established in the youth team and then established in the reserves as Paul was coming on full time. And I honestly can't remember too many games that we did play together, because we seemed to go through reserve team football in one season. At that time we were a very successful reserve side. The youngsters coming through, Charlie Nicholas, Mark Reid, Danny Craney, myself, John Halfin, Davy Moyes, Jim Duffy was there as well. So there was a backbone of a good young squad there. And Paul came into that at the latter stages along with Jim McInally as well. But he seemed to go through it a lot quicker.
And things just clicked right away for Paul, you know. You tend to wait maybe a year or two for them to fill out physically wise, but McStay was straight in there right away. You could tell he was ready, even at such an early age.
And all of a sudden we got to a situation where I was keeping him out the team simply because of his age and not because of his ability. And I worried about it, how to introduce him. And then I decided we're going to take the plunge.
He made his debut against Queen of the South in the Scottish Cup. His league debut followed shortly after.
I didn't tell Paul anything about it, didn't let him know he was going to be in the team or anything, because I felt that was the best way to handle it. And we got to Aberdeen, told him maybe an hour and a half before kick-off he was playing. He went out and played as that's the only place he'd ever been.
Short one, McCluskey, McStay. Oh yes! Sheer brilliance from young Paul McStay.
After scoring in your debut, you're going to get a wee bit of publicity. Maybe even after that, a good spell, maybe 2 or 3 games or whatever, a wee run just in. And then I was demoted to the bench, because my form had dipped a wee bit. But I was just delighted to get a crack at it at such a young age.
The following season, Paul played in every league match, and in October played in his first Old Firm game. In a memorable match, the young protégé was outstanding.
Coleman playing it through the middle. The Rangers defence had it heading. Here's a great chance for Murdo MacLeod. McStay following up. Paul McStay in his first Old Firm match makes it one apiece.
Yeah, I think if you look at the pictures of the time or the TV footage, I think that would explain how happy I was. I just couldn't believe it. You know, even though it was a 6-yard tap in, the happiness and the joy it brought myself and all the fans in the background, I think that memory will live with us for a long time.
McStay so determined. Perfect chance for McGarvey.
The two exceptional qualities I seen was his vision and his passing ability. He had a great ability, Paul, when he first came in the team, that he was playing against stronger guys, quicker guys than himself. But because his vision was so good, he was a yard ahead of him. He could make space in any amount of situations. And for somebody so young, that's difficult to do. And when you see it in somebody so young, you realise the talent is there. So I think it was easy for Billy McNeill at that stage just to throw him in. There is a certain sides to Paul that a lot of people don't really ever see. I mean, the drive he has on the field has always been there. He hates to lose. He doesn't always maybe show his emotions that people would say, well, you know, he doesn't look as if he really cares sometimes, but he does. He takes it really personally, and he really it goes deep. He was also a great ball winner. He would drive himself into challenges and really, without thinking about it, really seriously into challenges. So he had many talents.
McCluskey, second chance, that's it. McStay, 1-0. Beautiful ball by McStay. Yes, number 29, Charlie Nicholas.
At that time, I mean, Charlie was a sensational player, and I mean, people would just pay entrance money to watch him alone. Very talented guy, and he came through the ranks. Willie, Danny, there was a lot of good lads come through.
He had now firmly established himself in the side, playing with skill and maturity. In December 1982, Celtic faced Rangers in the League Cup final.
Trollen, good position for Celtic, and there's a goal.
My first medal, probably the thing that annoys me most is I get taken off in the game. I got a bad injury and didn't see the game out. But the goals again stick out, though. The two great goals, Charlie and Murdo. And again, savouring another piece of silverware again, not just after winning the league a few months earlier and then winning the League Cup. No, it was just amazing times, and again, I wanted it to go on forever, but as we found out after that, no, it didn't.
The Old Firm stranglehold was broken with the emergence of Dundee United and Aberdeen. Celtic, however, had discovered a special talent.
McStay, brilliant goal.
The most outstanding thing is his poise. He's got marvellous poise, and as soon as he gets control of the ball, you see he knows exactly where the ball is. His head's up, he's looking to see where he's going to play it, who he can introduce to the game. He's got a marvellous awareness of what's going on around about him. Always seems to have time in the ball, which is the hallmark of all great players. He gets fantastic vision, both short and long. And he's one of these players that can totally control a game. And there's a lot of great players in the world that maybe do it for maybe a 10 or a 15-minute spell in the game, and they hope that in that time they do their damage. Paul McStay, I've always felt, was someone that can go and can control a game from the start to the finish.
McLeod now to McStay. Spans McStay again. Absolutely magnificent.
The departure of Billy McNeill as manager in 1983 after disagreement with the board led to the appointment of Davy Hay and a very different style of management.
Very quiet Davy in a way. If you go on his wrong side or if he wasn't happy, he'll let you know, and I felt the brunt of that a couple of times though.
A dramatic Scottish Cup victory in 1985 came after the second-half substitution of Tommy Burns and Paul.
The changes that day helped us win the cup because we were going nowhere, and the manager felt we'll make the changes. I was disappointed to come off myself, but I mean the change did win the game, and again it was great because Willie was part of that team as well, and it was a happy McStay household that night. I'll tell you that. Just the two has been part of a cup winning team.
Away from McKinnon. There's the equaliser.
The following season saw further drama and an amazing finish to the title race.
You don't give up the fight, and you never quit, and I don't think any Celtic team should, and I think that proves why, because I mean we were sort of dead and buried around about the turn of the year, and we just kept on plodding away, you know, just doing some good stuff, getting results, and eventually we won the league in the last 10 minutes of the season, really.
No question about it, Celtic are certainly playing like champions. Archdeacon testing Tom Wilson. Makes his way to the byline, here's Gordon McLeod, now McStay. 4-0 to Celtic. Paul McStay. Well, Stuart needed 2 bites. Now that must be a goal for Dundee. Sheer bedlam around the stadium. Well, you don't need to hear any more news than that. Dundee clearly has scored at Dens. And let's lift off here at Love Street.
It was just amazing scenes at Love Street that day. I don't think anybody could believe that we did it. You know, we were always hoping that maybe something like that would happen. And probably my dad was one of the few who really believed that we would do it. He was always saying to me, keep going, you're going to do it, you know, because hearts will slip up and you've got to be there when they do. So that gave me encouragement as well. Where I was brought up, Larkhall, it was my father and another man who started the local boys club team, really, because we'd all been knocking about on the streets and messing about that way. And he started up a local team, Meadowhall United, which Willie and myself got involved in, and then later Raymond. So it showed you how much he was wanting us to be involved in the football scene, because it's a game that he played as well at a good level at junior, and he wanted us to, because we had an interest in it, he wanted to give us a start, because there was nothing round about the area at that time, and he's seen that as maybe a wee gap to be filled, and I thank him for that.
I try to make them benefit from the mistakes that I made. Being in charge of the boys' club and taking over the school team at an early age helped me be very influential in what they did. I wouldn't depend on anybody else doing it, which happens a lot with boys' clubs and whatnot. People run them out for their own glory, a lot of them. They're not thinking the progress of the kids.
As my dad said, I was a late developer. I started when I was 7, which is I suppose quite late for a McStay to start kicking the ball about or getting a real interest in it.
Paul actually was very much advanced for his age. He'd always played 2 years above himself. Even from early days at school, he was 8-year-old playing in the primary school cup final. It was a prestigious one in our local area. He was actually man of the match, playing against kids of 11 years of age. And he'd done that right through his career in the area we come from as well, out in Larkhall. The McStay name was always connected with Celtic.
The McStay connection goes back all the way to 1912, when Paul's granduncle Willie McStay first joined the club. He went on to become captain. That honour was also bestowed upon his brother Jimmy, who succeeded him as skipper in 1929.
Well, Jimmy managed the club for a short period, and the two of them actually played in the same team as well. They won things here, and there's not been that many managers of Celtic Football Club, and it's great that a McStay has been involved there.
The family were steeped in Celtic, and Paul soon became a keen supporter.
They started at an early age, and that is the thing about the club. There's so much family involvement in it, really. You know, so from an early age, you're taking away the games. And I also remember playing for Meadowhall one day, and actually the supporters bus stopped at the side of the park, and I was substituted so that I could go and watch Celtic playing up in Perth. So there I was, jumping in the Larkhall Celtic Supporters Club with my red, white and blue Meadow strip on, so I got a bit of abuse for that.
Paul also had the benefit of learning his trade from a footballing legend.
In my early days at Holy Cross, there was a competition to go and train with and meet the great Pele. I think the day he walked in, just in awe, you'd only seen this guy on TV. He's like a bit of a god, really, to any young footballer at the time. And I presented him with a Celtic jersey, which I still got the pictures of.
The talented youngster became the only player to have played for Scotland in all 3 underage teams and was described by national youth coach Andy Roxburgh as the most exciting young player he had ever seen.
Every Scottish team that was picked at one stage, Paul seemed to be involved in it, youth level, under 16, everything. And I worried that maybe he was getting overplayed at too early an age. The first time I saw him playing, I knew that this was an extraordinary talent. I remember going down to Wembley to see him playing in that magnificent Schoolboys International, and in great company. He really still looked a real piece of polish and a real piece of class.
Floated high once more towards Coyne, the big number 5 would come up. And Scotland now with McStay, a chance and a goal! 1-1. The Scottish captain has equalised. Paul McStay making his record 16th appearance for Scotland today and celebrates with an equalising goal. Here's Dick. Hey, going past his man nicely, a lovely bit of style there by Dick. Played back there. Oh, and a chance in McStay has made it 2-2.
The famous 5-4 victory at Wembley. Amazing the response I got when we came back up the road. Like, all the lads were inundated with no press and things, no wanting to know about the game, because I think it made such a big impact at the time. Winning at Wembley was a special moment.
There was 72,000 that day. English kids. I think we went down with 3 bus loads, and actually his mother and I went down, and the coach from Holy Cross School, full of kids and what they were going to do. We were going to beat England and out-sing them, and out-shout them. They get the fright of their lives in the landing day and seen hundreds of English buses going in. But the performance of the boys was just magnificent, an all-round performance. And Paul scored 2 great goals.
John McStay is justifiably proud of Paul's achievements, as indeed he is of all 3 of his sons. None more so than in 1984, when Willie and Paul both scored in a 3-0 defeat of Rangers. For Paul and his wife Anne-Marie, the warmth of a close-knit and supportive family is invaluable and provides a means of relaxation, even if the talk invariably turns to football. His brother Raymond, who was also in Celtic's books for a time, knows the importance of his family to Paul.
He's quiet when he's around people he doesn't know, but when he's in the family atmosphere and maybe a couple of beers, then you see the real Paul each day. Because anybody that knows him, like the way the family knows him, are close friends, know he's not quiet.
People are very comfortable with him. Oh, it's not, oh, that's Paul McStay. It's just one of the family. He's not treated any different, and he would never want that way anyway. And I think that sense, his close friends and his family is where he relaxes. He doesn't go seeking attention. He just relaxes with his wife and family.
In 1986, Scottish football was rocked by the arrival of Graham Souness as Rangers player-manager. With him came expensive signings from south of the border, and in his first season, the league championship was won by a rejuvenated Rangers side. Celtic supporters knew it was vital that they mount a challenge in their 100th year in existence.
It's a very special year. There was plenty of celebrations arranged off the park. There was a play to commemorate the centenary and lots of other things that supporters were running. So it was important that we had some success on the park as well.
Billy McNeill returned to the helm and set about the task of restructuring a side which had lost some key players.
It was interesting because obviously all I had seen were fleeting games of him, and I wondered how his development had gone, but I needn't have worried because he had progressed satisfactorily. He'd become the good, experienced player.
He was the tough man, and everybody else took a lot of heart from the way he went about his job and his game. And I think he drove us on to win that championship that year.
It worked marvellously well for that particular year. Just something I think in Celtic's history that it had to be done at that time, and it all gelled together perfectly.
Gary Mackay, Rogan in a very good position here. Oh, went beyond everybody, it's in.
In '88 was just flowing football. I mean, we had that many options, a good strong squad, and there was so much pace in the flanks as well. So really, the thing that I'm looking for is outs, and with the width and the pace there's plenty of choices where to hit the ball, really.
In an outstanding season, 23-year-old McStay was voted both Players and Writers Player of the Year and played in every league game.
You know, individual games, I could pick out loads and loads in which Paul was shown, but the lovely thing about him is there's a consistency about his performances that is very heartening. What people maybe don't appreciate is that he really works hard in games. It's not just a case of games coming to him. He sets out to put himself right in the engine room, and he invariably is in there. And when things are going for him, then he's really tremendous to have on your side.
Good play from Paul McStay. Two men waiting in the box. There's McStay looping it across to Rogan on the far side. It's back to Billy Stark. Appeals for handball against Goff, but still not clear for Rangers. There's Paul McStay. Paul McStay with the open goal. 21 minutes into the second half. The Celtic end goes wild. A superb strike by Paul McStay.
The one you could say sort of clinched the title in that game, because we knew if Rangers would have won it, it would have clawed them back into a wee bit, and we'd have been under pressure, not till the end of the season. But winning there, I think, sort of eased the pressure. And again, a great team performance. Everybody knew what had to be done in the day and just went about our business. And there was no way we're going to let it slip that day. I don't know what the official record for the crowd was. There must have been about 80,000 in there. You know, they were on the track and everything, and the scenes were quite incredible. If you could have written the script, that's the way you wanted it to be. You know, probably Brother Bolford away back then would probably say, if you want to win the league, it's going to be the centenary year. You know, the fans showed their appreciation as well. The scenes were just amazing.
Throughout that year, Celtic had provided a series of fighting performances, coming from behind to secure crucial victories. The Scottish Cup final of that season was heart-stopping, even by Celtic standards.
Gallagher! It's a magnificent goal for Dundee United!
If things weren't going well, there was that spirit and belief, self-belief, that we could still go and win a game with 5 minutes to go.
Good play by Rogan. Equaliser by McAvenny.
rebel spirit came through again, the determination, and I suppose we were saying, well, it's our year. We're going to take this one as well.
They're stuck. McAvenny! Frank McAvenny has won the cup for Celtic.
You know the happiness that you feel inside, but I think when you look in the terraces and you just see the smiling faces and jumping for joy, I think that affects you even more, because it's just because it means so much to them now.
What was a special year for Paul, his wedding to Anne-Marie McGarrity was further cause for celebration, and the Greenock girl became his wife during the close season. Most people who know Paul know that his commitment to his wife and daughters is a large part of his life. The glamour of the footballing world is something which Anne-Marie is unimpressed by.
I was on the phone and we were just chatting away, and she was asking what I did. I was trying to explain to her, no, well, I play football. And she says, well, no, what's your real job?
There's a new bump in the motor, Daniel.
Don't talk to me about bumps.
Here we are a few years later with 2 wee kiddies and one on the way. If you take away all the time that the football takes up, I think the time that's left has to be spent with your family, really. Anne-Marie's been brilliant. She's a big part of my life now.
I think the kids give you a form of escapism, I suppose. I think that's what helps distract them, maybe, and helps them to get over things. You always put things in perspective. I think he's realistic that way. He knows that there's more to life when he's finished football. But just now, it's awful hard for him to take when they lose. I used to go to all the home games with Paul's mum before I had the kids, but now it's curtailed a wee bit. So he'll never blow his own trumpet, never. He's very modest, and he'll never come home and say that he's been outstanding or had a good game or anything. He's just always first to criticise himself. The family are very special, and they've always been just like an extension of my own family, and you know, it's been great from that point of view. We all got on well, and they would be right behind us if we needed them.
In every footballer's career, the spectre of serious injury can loom large. While before 1991 Paul remained relatively injury-free, he was out of action for virtually the first time in 10 years when he picked up a knee injury in a pre-season friendly.
At that time it was frustrating because it's the first time I'd really had anything like this, so that sort of long-term injury. If I do have an injury, I know there's somebody very capable of looking after us. No, Brian Scott, I think he's priceless now. If you put him in the transfer market, he'd be worth millions, and that's no exaggeration. Yeah, he's just priceless for a place like this.
We've had a medial ligament which was detached here, which was surgically stapled back on. Last season he had 3 operations on and around his foot and ankle on his left side as well. On top of that, we've had a left hernia repair. So, I mean, it's all down the one side, you know, it's the left hernia, left medial ligament. These are 3 wee bony deposits that were found in amongst the tendons here. The surgeon just chipped this wee bit of bone off the front here. It actually just fell off. It was dead easy to do. But if we could get a new left leg, we'd be doing okay on it, you know. Yeah.
One of Brian Scott's other innovations was that of the hyperbaric chamber, which, with a combination of increased pressure and oxygen, helps to reduce any swelling caused by injury.
I think we've had the machine for about 2 years now. Sometimes an hour, and about an hour you're in. I think if you're a bad boy, you send off for that, you go in here for a wee while, kill you down.
Very, very, very professional in his whole attitude. You know, whether it's in here with he's injured, whether he's in the gym, you know, he gives it 100%. You can guarantee he won't take shortcuts.
But the thing is about him is he's training. He works very, very hard every single day in his training. You know, and I think anybody who came in as a young boy, you'd probably need to look at Paul McStay and say that's what you want to achieve. And he's still doing that, and he's 31. And he's still working as hard as anybody, and he still wants to be a success. And nobody hurts more than Paul McStay than when Celtic get beat.
McStay picks it up for Celtic. Paul McStay!
Despite a good start to season 89-90, there was to be disappointment for Celtic in the title race.
After the previous year's highs, I want to go in and win the championship again. That didn't materialise, but we managed to get a bit of silverware anyway, and it's crucial for a place like us to keep on winning things.
John Miller! 4 minutes from half-time. Celebrations begin on the Celtic bench.
I think after the success of the double winning year, you try and build on that. It should have been a springboard for going on and getting a good run of like winning championships and trophies, but there was no investment at that time in quality players. Instead of that, we're letting players go.
We had lost influential players. We had lost players with tremendous enthusiasm and infectious enthusiasm. So Paul was thrust into a difficult position, plus the fact that things weren't going particularly well. We had obviously the challenge from Rangers. They seem to have almost an inexhaustible supply of funds to buy good and quality players.
We lost too many experienced players. I mean, everybody went. Well, we had 4 or 5 players left after that, and it left me and Paul as the oldest stagers in the team. You know, I mean, I was only 23, 24. Paul was 25. And we were left to people to look up to us coming into the side, and it was very, very difficult because we were still looking for a lot of help.
Among those who left were Burns and Aiken.
The older established players were getting let go then, and that takes a lot of the soul away. And I don't think it helped people like Paul. Suddenly I think he was, what, 24, 25, and caught in the middle of a club who was a little bit of turmoil, and he was having to carry a responsibility. Very unfair. He wasn't getting much help at all.
Paul became the third McStay to captain Celtic, taking over from Roy Aiken in 1990. He also succeeded Aiken as skipper of Scotland. He now has over 70 caps for his country.
My first full international was against Uruguay. Again, it came at a very early age, and it was the great Mr. Steen who gave me my chance, and to be involved with a team that Mr. Steen managed was just unbelievable.
At that time, Scotland had quite a few stars. I mean, they had Souness, who was at his peak at Liverpool at that time. Davy Cooper was automatic on the left. He was playing well for Rangers. Jim Bett. You had many talented players, Gordon Strachan also. So it wasn't particularly easy for the youngster to come in and always get his place. But he established himself really quickly into the team. And within, I think, 3 or 4 caps, he had more or less made the place his own.
A great cross. The header, the ball is in the net, and it's Paul McStay. The youngest Scotsman on the field gets his first goal for Scotland.
Mr. Steen was saying, no, it's a chance for me to sort of make my mark at international level. I'd been in the team for a couple of years, and no, maybe he was looking for a wee bit more.
Keenly won by McLeish. McLeish with a lay-off to Paul McStay. And a great goal from McStay. Sheer genius from the Celtic midfield player. And Scotland go 2 in front. Well, we won't tire of watching this. He took the layoff from Dalglish, advanced a few steps, and look at the power in the shot. Well, until tonight, he'd never scored for Scotland. But now, in his 8th international, he's made it 2. And I can tell you that goal from McStay brought Chuck Steen off his seat on the bench right onto the track.
Paul relished the opportunity to play with one of his boyhood heroes.
My idol was the king, Mr. Dalglish. I think he is unbelievable. Just so much talent, and to play alongside him, I think that's when you truly see how good a player he is.
Paul went to Mexico with Alec Ferguson and the Scotland squad in 1986 and played in the last game against Uruguay, enjoying the opportunity to amass valuable experience.
What can he do? Oh, brilliant goal! Oh dear, that is superb. It caps one of the finest midfield performances by a Scot I've seen in years.
Despite a disappointing World Cup in Italy, Paul remained a committed and enthusiastic performer for his country and made a significant contribution to Scottish efforts to qualify for the 1992 European Championships in Sweden.
McAllister to McStay, there's McCoist, he's onside, a chance is on again with the opening goal, there's Paul McStay, this should be the opener. Scotland have made the breakthrough. The smile on the face of Paul McStay heralds his 7th international goal.
On the 14th of October 1990, he surpassed Danny McGrain's Parkhead record of 62 caps to become the most capped Celtic player ever. The transformation that has taken place at Celtic in recent times is something that gives Paul a great deal of pleasure. The process of rebuilding the club is evident in the magnificent new stadium that continues to take shape. The turmoil that engulfed the club in the early 90s was evident for all to see. Against this background, Paul was forced to consider the option of seeking new challenges further afield. Press speculation abounded about his future as his contract came up for renewal in the close season of 1992.
Really, I just wanted to see what my options were. I think I said that many times when I was asked. I just want to see what my options are. I want my contract to run out.
Supporters were stunned when Paul made a much talked about gesture at the end of the last game of the season.
I threw my jersey into the crowd just to say thanks for all those years of support. And if I was going, though, I'd said my farewells, because I heard players in the past saying I never had a chance to say bye-bye to the fans or just to say thanks to them. I never really thought about it at the time that there would be such an impact, but I just wanted to show the fans my appreciation.
There was a huge amount of speculation about his future as he agonised over the decision he had to make.
There was an opportunity for him at one time where he could have left the club, and I've no doubt when I spoke to him before about that many times. And told him that, you know, if he wanted to improve himself as an individual, it would possibly be better for him to go to the continent or to England or wherever and learn something else, as opposed to, you know, just the same thing week in, week out, the same players marking you, making it difficult for you to play, not really bothering about whether they're playing or not, just as long as you're not playing. And it takes a lot to keep battling against that type of thing.
Although the media pressure to make a decision at that time was unreal, no, I think they were want me to make a decision right away whether to stay or go, and lots of letters from fans, you know, giving us backing and saying, no, we're right behind you, just you take your time, never mind listen to the media.
I think it was a big decision to make, but I was 100% behind him, definitely. Would have gone anywhere with him if he had to move and he felt for any reason they wanted to move, then yeah, definitely would have been 100% behind him.
My wife Anne-Marie always stated, after all the year of will he go or will he stay sort of thing, she always says, make sure you have no regrets. Never have any regrets when you finish your career. If you wanted to go and play elsewhere and all the rest of it, because I don't want you moaning later on in life that, yeah, you wanted to do this, I wanted to do that.
It was actually amazing the amount of people who want to sign him at that time, and I think that was testament to the spell he was going through and the form he was showing his career. And he handled it very, very well.
After an outstanding performance in the European Championships, Paul was ready to make his decision.
One of the major factors right through my career has been my family. And now, with my new family starting in November, maybe it's in Anne-Marie's and myself's interests that the baby is born in Scotland.
Having considered the alternatives, he has never regretted his decision to stand by the club he loves.
And people just give an opinion. You know, they don't look at a whole general picture, they just give an opinion of what they think would be best for Paul. But ultimately Paul McStay was the one that had to make up his own mind. And nobody can ever say he was right or wrong or whatever. He done what he felt was best for him and for his family, and that is everybody's prerogative.
The downward spiral, which had begun after 1988, had continued into the 90s. Throughout this barren spell, which would last 6 years, McStay remained an inspirational figure for Celtic. Billy McNeill departed to be replaced by former Irish international Liam Brady, but the problems at the club ran deep and success remained elusive.
Liam had great ideas. I think at that time, even if you ask fans, he had us playing a lot of good football. The only thing that was lacking was a bit of punch, you know, a bit that killer thing.
But there were so many things wrong. I mean, we'd still supporters turning up week in, week out, which was frightening, but still so many things wrong behind the scenes. We've shared a room now for, what, 10 years, 12 years. We've been in the first team together, and I know how much he was hurting and how much we sat and spoke about it a few times. Sometimes you don't like speaking about it because you try and forget about it at times, and I knew how much he was hurting because both of us had the same feelings for the club, and we knew there were certain guys coming in, there was people coming in not with the feeling at the club that we had, because it was probably brought through his family, the same way it was brought through my family, what Celtic meant to each other, you know, and that was getting lost, and Paul couldn't handle that, I couldn't handle that, and we found it very, very difficult. So I think Paul's got to take great credit the way he held his head up, being captain of Celtic Football Club at a very, very, very difficult time.
Boyd, McStay. Oh, that was goal by Paul McStay.
The patience of supporters was running out, and the Celtic board remained intransigent in the face of protest about their lack of investment and refusal to relinquish control. It was an impossible situation for Paul, who was unable to make his true feelings known.
It's particularly difficult when you're captain of the club. I mean, it's not the worry that you're saying the wrong thing or you're disagreeing with people. That ain't the worry of it. I understood Paul's predicament there. It's just the fact that he's a club captain. He's got to be showing the right example to younger players and other players, and the supporters, trying to keep a unity together in the club. At that time, I felt the unity was completely gone anyway between board and players, and supporters too. I think only the players and the supporters had any sign of a relationship, which was getting a bit hard to accept for the players at times. But Paul tried to keep it together as best he could. I really realised the predicament he was in and understood his position.
The appointment of Lou Macari as manager failed to paper over the cracks.
There wasn't a lot you could say. It was your employers, and you did have to watch what was said. The only way you could try to help the situation again is go out in the park and give your all, and that's something I did. You don't want to deflect all the blame. At that time, on the park, it wasn't happening, and we, as players, myself included, I've got to look at myself and say, what did I do at that time? Was it enough to come in and try and work in an atmosphere which was getting worse every day? It was pretty hard.
Back with Paul McStay. And Celtic have made it at last. The captain strikes.
At the 11th hour, the club was saved by Fergus McCann, who came in with the cash injection that was needed. Paul's relief was shared by the supporters, as was his delight at the appointment of Tommy Burns as manager.
I just felt that Tommy would end up back here in some capacity. I'm sure he always dreamed to come back here as manager, and maybe it happened quicker than what he thought. He's still a young man, and his couple of years at Kilmarnock was good experience, but to come in, try and turn this club around as well, he had a big job in his hands.
And for the midfield players, for the hat and Gant in particular, you're looking up, you see the first front player up beside him, so it comes towards you, beside him, then he's in and the ball's getting laid off, and we'll get the strike at the goal.
Brad checks inside McCall. On for McStay. It's a second for Celtic. Another superb goal.
Paul and the team received an immediate boost and celebrated with a superb performance against Rangers at the start of the new season. However, the ills of the club were far from cured. The Coca-Cola Cup of 1994 is a nightmare that is etched on the memory of every Celtic fan.
I think it wasn't even just about that day. I think it was about the years before it. This could wipe away all that, the bad memories sort of thing, bring the happiness back, and it just wasn't like a one-off cup final. It was like 6 years rolled into one after the feeling of feeling you should have won the game, and then having this intense pressure.
With the score tied at 2-2 after extra time, it came to the agonising ordeal of a penalty shootout. The responsibility fell to the captain as it went to sudden death.
The keeper saved it. The keeper saved my penalty, and I just felt like the whole world caving in, really. It was just unbelievable. So they fight back the tears. I just said to them, look, just control yourself now. But later that night, I just couldn't handle it anymore now. It was just cracked, that was the word.
I remember running from my seat down through the front door of Ibrox out to be with him, to comfort him, because he must have felt the whole world had collapsed on him at that particular time. But he never went moaning about it. He took it as part of the responsibility of what he was there to do. He was a captain of Celtic. He put his life into football, and that was one of the downs.
I didn't even feel sorry for myself. I felt sorry for the Celtic fans who turned up that day. Fully hope of winning this trophy. I just felt so hurt for them, so gutted. It wasn't even self-sympathy, it's just that I'd missed this penalty that could have turned things, and it was just hard to handle now. But again, you say, how do you get back from it? You can either run away, go in a shell, or go out and face it. The next morning the press were here. I had to go out and face them, and I suppose that was part of the therapy.
Well, he dealt with it very well and with great dignity. Very difficult for him to come through that, because I know he'd wanted it so much to win that cup, and losing it, and in the manner in which we lost it. I mean, a penalty thing is nothing. I mean, he's brave enough to go and take it, and it's one of these things that was just meant to be. But obviously seen how upset and distressed he was after the game and back at Celtic Park, and just the feelings that every Celtic supporter went through, which was just, you know, mental torture, because we all felt the same way and thinking, God, are we ever going to get out of this mess?
The only way that I know how to answer is on the park, and I knew there were still things to play for. The fans' reaction, the following game helped tremendously, and I think the reaction at Easter Road, with the band, "You'll Never Walk Alone," Paul. I just felt it let all these guys down, though, and I didn't know what to expect that night, and that showed me what they thought of me, and that they would be there for us now.
Paul had a lump in his throat that night for the response he got, and that tells you what the punters thought of him, and that tells you immediately Paul will get it out of his system.
The Scottish Cup campaign provided Paul with the opportunity to make amends.
From such a low with the Coca-Cola Cup final to such a high with the Scottish Cup in 6 months as well, and that only came through hard work from the team. We'd experienced disappointment, and we just wanted a bit of silverware, and we knew what was needed. We needed a good cup run, and we gave that. We gave a lot of fighting performances, and the semi-finals as well, throwing right good displays.
Back here with Paul McStay, great ball in the full back. That's nailed up. Brilliant play from Celtic. Good play from McStay. This is McLaughlin. Collins wide on the left.
The final wasn't a classic, but the main thing was just winning that cup. After playing well in the Coca-Cola Cup and losing it, we just wanted to win this one. We needed it so badly.
What people don't realise is the unbearable pressure that we were all under that day, and none more so than Paul himself, because I know what he must have felt that day, and I was looking at him during the game and praying for him during the game that we just get this, because I knew that once he'd won that trophy, he would have the belief again, and so it proved.
McLaughlin sends over a good cross, that's awkward. Jimmy Boyle scrambles the ball away, but only as far as McKinley. That's for Van Hooydonk. Great header! And Celtic are ahead!
I think the relief was there for all to see, and the happiness was there for all to see as well.
There was nobody any happier to see him going up these stairs himself. Just so thrilled for him, and I think he's facing the final whistle, and that whole day and night was just a picture, and I'm just so happy for him, you know, and for every Celtic supporter.
And the relief when we did the lap of honour and all the players' faces, I mean, it was just incredible. It was a tension and relief rather than the feeling of success again. And I think that was the same with Paul that day. It was just, you know, he was exhausted when he got back in the changing room just because he'd finally done it. That's it, he'd achieved what he'd always wanted to achieve as captain. Had that feeling, and the pressure had gone.
The rebuilding of Celtic continued in the wake of the Scottish Cup victory, and season 95-96 has seen a rejuvenated Paul McStay.
Kinley doing well to get in the cross. Once again, it's David Farrell who's there. Should turn by Grant. It's Paul McStay! That's a wonderful goal by the Celtic captain.
Said some things to him to try and get him back, and said things to him that possibly I shouldn't have said to him, but were done for the right reasons, to try and upset him and to get him angry, because I always felt when he was angry he's better player. And it worked, and thank God it worked, because there was a long time we were wondering, you know, if we'd lost him or if he'd so many years in the doldrums he was never going to get out it again. To say some nasty things to him, cheap things, just to have a shot, just to see what kind of reaction we'd get from him, whether he would take the bait or no. And he took it.
Although he was my old teammate, old pal, he let me know as well that I better start performing to levels that he knew I could do week in, week out. He didn't want it for a couple of weeks and then fall away. Last year he let me know it a couple of times. He dropped us, and that was hard to take. But we got a couple of wee wrestles over it, but we managed to sort things out, and that's what happens in football.
And lo and behold, he come back in, he's worked away, his attitude's been great, and I feel like he's been born again this year, definitely, because what I see now is everything I ever wanted for him. And if I had to say some things that upset him, and he's maybe kept it in his mind, they were only said to get the best out of him.
Paul McStay has over 70 caps for Scotland and has played more than 600 games for Celtic. He remains an inspirational figure for the club and one of Scottish football's most talented players. 37,300 fans braved the elements on a cold December night to pay tribute to one of their favourite sons. And they weren't disappointed as they were treated to a highly competitive game against English champions Manchester United. Early in the game, Simon Donnelly broke from inside his own half and embarked upon a 60-yard run, finding Andy Walker with his layoff. Walker's ball across the goalmouth caught the United defence square, and it fell to Pierre van Hooijdonk to open the scoring with the easiest of chances. A United corner in the 19th minute gave the visitors an opportunity to level the score. Steve Bruce nudging the loose ball to Paul Scholes, who finished well, beating young Stuart Kerr in the Celtic goal.
Goal for Manchester United.
That was the way it stayed until the second half, when a measured ball from Tosh McKinley found Van Hooijdonk 30 yards from goal. Despite claims for a handball, a superb strike from the Dutchman put Celtic ahead. Pierre showing the kind of finishing that has made him top scorer this season. Celtic continued to press with substitute Chris Hay coming off best in this encounter. A delicate chip over the keeper made it 3-1 with 5 minutes to go. A memorable goal for the young Celt. For Paul McStay, it was an emotional occasion to mark an outstanding career with the club and fans he loves.
It's all right saying you're a big Celtic man or this, that and the other. I've got the chance to prove it even more by getting out there and doing it for the team that I supported. I'd like to think my commitment on the park maybe tells people how much this place means to me. And I'm sure once I hang up my boots, the scarf will get brought back out again and going to watch the games. So I mean, that's the only team I want to see winning anyway. From the early days when my mum used to wash the strips and used to sit hanging out the back door, and I mean, that shows you how much my mum was committed. Went to all the games as well, still does. If it wasn't for them, I don't think we'd be where we are now. They encouraged us so much to go and get what we wanted, whether it had been something else, but it happened to be football, and they seen that, so they encouraged us and gave us every backing. Made sacrifices when we needed a new pair of boots as well. All these things will live with me forever.
I can't thank you all enough, know how much this means to me. I've came here many a year on the terracing, watching the previous sales testimonial nights. I've played good, and it's just an unbelievable feeling. And I thank you all for making this a very special night for myself and my family. I just feel we've turned the corner now, and I will see good things for the Warriors. God bless you.
He's very much the leader now. He's had all the experiences it's possible. He's played in World Cups, European Championships, League Championship medals, Scottish Cup winners medals, been the captain, always been one of the main players, and he's got all that experience to call on now. And that is why now that he controls the game for us, and he controls the tempo of the game, and it was so important that we got him back into that frame of mind and playing that way, because he is the one that everything revolves around.
He's a great player. He's one of the best players I've played against. He's played at the top now for so many years, both with club and country, and he's played some truly outstanding games, and I think it's fair to say he's one of Celtic all-time greats.
When we talk about Jimmy McGrory's, Jimmy Johnson, Kenny Dalglish's, and in years to come we'll be talking about Paul McStay, well, the young kids will still be talking about him, I'm sure of that.
The build-up to especially a game like this is very crucial to get away and
Well, yeah, as I say, the lads go down the pub for 2 or 3 hours and then
We've got a couple of strippers.
go for an Indian or something like that. Then we do a wee bit of training in the morning just to sweat out all the drink.
For the teamwork, and it is important to have a player like Paul mcstay in the team. Is it yours? I think we have very good partnership in the team. Sorry, is it yours? Hello, Pierre.
John Clark to get my signature now. I mean, even to have Billy McHouse, start got Billy McHouse and your McNeil.
I don't know if I said the right thing there. We'll be all right in the night.
Throughout the history of Celtic Football Club, its supporters have revelled in the glories of a succession of magnificent saints, enjoying a unique bond with the club and its players. In the 90s, the club came perilously close to shutting its gates for the last time. In the midst of supporters' despair, Fergus McCann stepped in to pull Celtic back from the brink.
Yes, it was a difficult time for Celtic. It was a very dark day back in March when the club was on the point of going out of business entirely, and 105 years of history gone, and that was a very difficult starting point, as you can imagine.
The most pressing matter for Celtic was the issue of the stadium. The deadline for compliance with the Taylor Report's recommendations for all-seated stadia was fast approaching. An agreement was reached to allow Celtic to play home matches at Hampden while Celtic Park was redeveloped. There were also immediate team matters to deal with, and in the close season, ex-Celt Tommy Burns was appointed manager, with Billy Stark as assistant. Their task would be to deliver much-needed success to Celtic supporters.
I wanted to make sure my time here is spent fruitfully and working as hard as I can, because I know the people that come to support Celtic, that come week in, week out, and year in, year out, are expecting things to happen, and they'll be made aware of everything that goes on at Celtic Football Club, because I'll make sure that they're aware of everything that's happening. It's their club, and they're entitled to know everything that's going on.
The recent turmoil has had an effect on both supporters and players, but team captain Paul mcstay remains the nucleus around which the team is formed. John Collins, a player of unique talent and vision, contributes to a midfield which has been further strengthened by the purchase of Phil O'Donnell from Motherwell. The close season return of Andy Walker to the fold and the emergence of the promising young Simon Donnelly offered encouraging signs that the quest for silverware could be within grasping distance. Progress in the League Cup has also offered hope for supporters.
For the semi-final of the Cup against Aberdeen at Ibrox with 35,000 Celtic supporters. And I don't think there's another club in the world that could get 35,000 supporters coming to their games, especially having not won anything for 5 or 6 years. I think it's absolutely incredible, and the passion and the fervour that they support the club with is really frightening.
Tommy Burns was noted for a similar commitment to the club he loves, and shares the anxiety of supporters who have not tasted success since he wore the hoop jersey himself as a player. The Scottish Cup was won in 1989 with Celtic defeating Rangers by 1 goal, scored by Joe Miller. Few supporters could have realised that victory would herald a lean period, during which no trophies would be added to Celtic's collection of honours, which boasts, among other prizes, the European Cup, 35 league championships, 9 league cups, and 29 Scottish Cups. One of the most memorable of these occasions was the Scottish Cup final of 1937 against Aberdeen. Hampden Park was crammed with an incredible 146,433 spectators, the record attendance for a European club match. More than 20,000 were locked outside the ground. With both teams eager to provide a spectacle, Johnny Crumb scored for Celtic after 12 minutes. Celtic's lead lasted less than a minute as Armstrong netted a loose ball to equalise for Aberdeen. With Celtic dominating in the second half, it was Willie Buchan who settled the game, and Celtic took the cup. Emergence of a promising side at the start of the 50s heralded Celtic's next period of success. Among the names of Evans, McPhail, Peacock and Tully was that of a young Sligo man who fulfilled an ambition to play for Celtic at an early age.
Because actually I told them a lie when I joined them. I took about 5 or 6 years off my age, you know. With the result I had to go and get a couple of birth certificates, you know, one correct and one not so correct. But I got away with it.
In 1951, the gates had to be closed at Parkhead when Celtic met Aberdeen in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. John McPhail opened Celtic's account in what was a prolific season for him. The second, just before half-time, was scored by supporters' favourite, the incomparable Charlie Tully. John McPhail finished the scoring in the 81st minute. After disposing of Wraith Rovers to reach the final, Celtic faced Motherwell at Hampden in front of a huge crowd.
Because I had some friends over from Sligo to see the game and they were amazed. There was 129,000 people at the game. What I remembered about it was the tremendous play from Tully and McPhail, because they passed each other the ball from the halfway line right up to the 18-yard line, with McPhail finishing. No one else touched the ball. Celtic hadn't been doing too well, so it was a great lift for them to win a trophy.
2 years later, as part of the celebrations for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, Celtic participated in a tournament between 8 teams from England and Scotland. Celtic defeated Arsenal and Manchester United. Having started as outsiders, they defeated Hibernian 2-0 in the final. Jock Stein, who had been signed from Llanelli the previous season, lifted the prestigious trophy for Celtic. The Coronation Cup resides in Celtic's collection, along with a magnificent assortment of trophies won outright in one-off competitions.
Celtic, winners of the League Championship, were finalists with Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup. Over 130,000 supporters went to Hampden Park to encourage their favourites.
A shot across goal from Neely Mockin was deflected by Young of Aberdeen into his own goal to open the scoring. An equaliser came from Buckley in the next minute. The deadlock was broken with a piece of individual brilliance from Willie Fernie.
I always remember the winning goal. Willie run from his own half of the field, and I was running alongside him. And he kept on running. I said, I'm not going to get this ball at all. He kept beating player after player. And eventually, he got right to the byline, and he cut it back. All I had to do was just put in the net, really. It was one of the best runs that I ever witnessed, a player on the ball and keeping it so close to his feet.
In 1957, Celtic inflicted a record 7-1 defeat in the League Cup final over Rangers. The victory was hailed as an example of skill and control triumphing over power and force. It is a result which is remembered and savoured to the present day.
Oh, Hampden in the sun, Celtic 7, Rangers 1. All the people shout and scream, 'cause they want a revival scene. Well, if Fernie did a dance, and he gave the Jers no chance. He gave Big McPhail a ball, and he stuck it in the hanging pail. Oh, Hampden in the sun, Celtic 7, Rangers 1. All the people shout and scream, 'cause they want a revival scene.
However, it would be the swan song for a side which within months would be devastated by injury, transfer and retirement.
We're an ageing side. A lot of us were 34, 35, 36, 37. And the chairman at that time, Bob Kelly, he decided to start a youth policy instead of buying players.
After a spell as reserve team coach, Jock Stein departed to managerial success with Dunfermline and Hibs. Unrest grew among supporters as 7 years passed without success. When Stein returned as manager in 1965, he did so under his own terms.
What I wanted to do was to prove to the people I was capable of taking full control. And I came on the basis of that. And it wasn't long until I got there.
The Scottish Cup final of 1965 offered Steen an early opportunity for success. With the score level at 1-1, just before half-time, Dunfermline were awarded a free kick 20 yards from goal.
And it's a goal! A goal by McLaughlin! Well, there's no doubt about that one. All stroking it to Lennox. Oh, who's suddenly got his score? That's a left all again. Inside forward Lennox with McLean out of position for once. And Lennox showing a turn of speed they didn't expect. Corner for Celtic. There he goes. It's a good one. It's a goal! A goal by McNeil. Billy McNeil has scored. With 9 minutes to go. Well, that's a captain's job. And he's made the score. Celtic 3, Dunfermline 2.
I remember the joy and excitement of the whole thing, you know, it was tremendous. But it was a tremendous occasion for us because that was the breakthrough. You know, that was the one, that was us having achieved a trophy, as it were. And the lovely thing about it was, a year later, we were league champions.
That's a right Johnston taking the throw. Gallagher, and it's a goal by Lennox. And it's Lennox who's always there when he's needed. Side forward Ferguson to Edwards. Clark. Number 6 to Chambers. An intelligent pass. Chambers with McLean. And here's a chance for Lennox. Johnston. And it's a goal. A goal by Johnston.
Celtic, under the first full season of Jock Steen's managership, finished 2 points ahead of Rangers to win their first championship in 12 years. Earlier that season, they had defeated Rangers to lift the League Cup. They had also reached the final of the Scottish Cup and the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. Steen had taken a group of talented individuals and created a team.
The game in space. So it's up to each individual player. Not necessarily on the ball, off the ball or otherwise.
Big Jock concentrated on doing things simply. He never asked too much of players, but where he was very good at spotting what their speciality was, and he asked them to go and do that. And although there were guidelines set down, they were wide open for you to exploit and for you to improvise.
At the back, it's always been Billy and John Clark tighten up here at the back.
Well, as far as I can see, boss, it just means that John and I'll have to make up our mind early which one of us is going to pick up the main striker.
That's a very good move, that, boss. You know, with me holding the ball in the middle of the park there, big Yogi hesitating just that few seconds to allow Tom.
Steen worked with players he had developed as youngsters in the youth team, and he involved himself in every aspect of their welfare.
All I try to do is to try and work for the players, because after all, the players work for me when they're on the field. I try to take an interest in them on and off the field, and I think that the real success that I've had, if any, is because I've treated each player with respect and got his respect in return.
There's no one player there in that Lisbon team that couldn't thank for something that they did other than take them to the pinnacle, take them to the heights in the football side of it, but personally in their family side of it, away from it, that he done something. Because that he knew that if you were right up there, he would get the best out of you. And that's all he wanted for the Celtic Football Club and for the supporters. Was they are just going out there to play football, 100%, with nothing in your, no worries in your mind. That was his greatest point.
Steen brought his own ideas to every facet of the team's approach.
Training became fun. Training became, forget about running all the time, although we worked very hard and we were a very fit team that people perhaps don't appreciate just the fitness of the team. The attitude of the boys in training was great, but Jock changed all the mundane stuff, and we did an awful lot of work with the ball. We worked to a degree on free kicks and corner kicks and set pieces and the like, but
in the main, it was enjoyment and expression, and Jock loved that. And I think at that time you had the kind of players who could adjust to that and could develop it that wee stage further.
Celtic embarked on an extensive tour of North America, which was also invaluable to the team.
We had gone to America in 1966 before season. We were away for 5.5 weeks in actual fact. I honestly always felt that close season trip really set the scene for everything, because it got us all together, it got us all aware of what the potential of the team was, but most importantly, it got us all to appreciate each other's friendliness and attitude, and the team spirit that came from that was absolutely brilliant.
Celtic began season 66-67 in impressive style with a 1-0 victory over Rangers in the League Cup final. Bobby Lennox scored in the 19th minute to give Celtic the 4th League Cup success. It was to be the club's most successful season ever, and saw them in the final of the Scottish Cup with the league championship still undecided.
This can be a year that every one of us can remember, so let's make sure that each player helps each other. Make sure if somebody's having a bad game, somebody near him helps him. So let's go now, Billy, and make sure that this is another game that will add to the rest of the victories we've had, and it'll be a season we'll all remember.
Celtic faced Aberdeen in the final. The decisive tactic employed by Steen was to play Johnson at inside left, forming a double spearhead with recent signing from Hearts, Willie Wallace. It was Wallace who would score both of Celtic's goals, the first coming towards the end of the first half. Shortly after the interval, Jimmy Johnson broke through to set up Wallace for his second. It was an important victory for Steen and Celtic. Defeat at this stage could have undermined the confidence of the team and left them with little to show for the season. However, Billy McNeill lifting a trophy would become a familiar sight by the end of that season. There had been few upsets in a magnificent season, which saw only 2 defeats in the whole league campaign. Celtic went to Ibrox in May, looking for 1 point to claim the championship. Among the 78,000 crowd that day were some familiar faces, and espionage tactics were employed by Heleno Herrera, manager of Inter Milan, Celtic's forthcoming European Cup final opponents. Rangers scored first in the constant heavy rain, which provided ideal conditions for the talents of Jimmy Johnson.
It's a goal for Celtic, yes! Johnston has scored.
It was an appalling day as I remember it. But the pace of the game and the ferocity of the game was something dramatic. Again, that was an achievement, because we had to go to Ibrox to win the league, and that was important.
It rained all day that day, and it poured for the heavens, and it continued right through the match. And this was about the last 10 minutes of the match, and the park was absolutely sodden. I mean, you were just sinking into it.
Into Johnston. Johnston. And a goal by Johnston. That makes it 2 by him. And that makes the score Rangers 1, Celtic 2.
I couldn't believe it. And the guys all get run about. I was knackered. I was shoving them out of the way. I couldn't get a breath. It was a wee bit special.
Everything just seemed to go our way. I think there's a wee touch of a fairy tale image about Celtic, and certainly it came to fruition that season. But I remember going down before the European Cup final. We were down at Seamill, and we did very little. We played a bit of golf, we did a little bit of light training, but we didn't do an awful lot. But the most important thing was, all of a sudden people from all over Europe were coming to televise us, watch us training, watch us preparing.
The European Cup must be everyone in Scotland's ambition. No Scottish team has ever reached a final even. I think this is a big dream. I think it would be a tremendous performance for any club to do so.
Convincing victories over FC Zurich and Nantes, and a last-gasp Billy McNeill winner against Vojvodina, had earned Celtic a semi-final place. They faced Dukla Prague for a place in the final.
And he scored, Strunk has scored to make it 1 goal each. just on half-time.
McGimmel.
Wallace, it's a goal! Wallace is goal. 32-1. Inside forward, all. And it's a goal for Wallace!
Celtic were the first British team to win a place in the European Cup final. The prospect of facing Inter Milan was relished by players and manager.
He was always confident that we could do a job. Didn't matter who we were playing. You know, he would brief us about the opposition was like, what they were about and what we were capable of doing, and that was it. So he put us onto the part afraid of no one.
The final was to be played in Portugal, and supporters flocked to Lisbon prior to the game.
But the fans were there ahead of us, and they had set the scene. I mean, they had captured the imagination of the Portuguese, and the Portuguese, when we came, they were ready to welcome us as the favoured sons, and it was a real beautiful atmosphere.
Two opposing footballing philosophies clashed, with Steen's brand of attacking football up against Herrera's brand of negative defensive tactics. The scene was set for a magnificent occasion.
Lovely stadium, and the colours were terrific because our green and white really stood out against their blue and black, and it was marvellous. The final was probably the easiest game we had in the campaign because they got the penalty kick earlier on, and from then on in it was just a matter, if we ever did get the ball, we gave it to Berthiaud or to Bobby Murdoch and they took over.
After losing a first-half penalty goal, Celtic bombarded the Inter defence for an hour, until eventually the breakthrough came.
Get the split-second chances against a defence like Inter's. Head up! Oh, a great shot and a great save by Sati.
I think the people that really excelled themselves were the midfield and the people at the back, the two full-backs. But possibly we made it for them because we were taking people into positions and we're leaving that open. But the midfield were tremendous. The boys that Bertie and Bobby Murdoch were hitting and playing, they'd completely controlled it. And we're saying, when are you going to start playing? Are you kidding us on here or what? And when I look at the match now, I just can't believe how many chances that we created in the match.
Gimmel. Murdoch. It's goal! Celtic has scored! Murdoch shot as a tilted gentleman on the pitch. Only 5 minutes to go, and without a doubt, the European Cup is on its way to Glasgow. Celtic have won, the goal scorers Gimmel and Chalmers, and onto the field come thousands of Celtic fans. This is a great moment.
When I was in the dressing room after the game, because I remember Jock, I think he'd just come out of the bath, he was sweating as much as the players. And with Hugh McIlvenny, and I said, Jock, you're immortal now.
But do you remember that guy in the kilt on the park? I don't think Scotland will ever forget him. A t-shirt and a kilt and sand shoes. These big silly socks on. And the guy cutting the centre spot. It's on somebody's mantelpiece in a big soggy bit of turf.
Kenneth Wilson says the only night he remembers to compare with that is when England won the World Cup.
Did they? Well, there you go.
Jock Stein had said that he wanted the team to make everyone in Europe glad that Celtic had reached the final. And that's a very big ambition. And it's an ambition that was fulfilled. In the game, Celtic played with a daring and an adventure, which at that time was most untypical of European football. And if you were a fan switching the game on in Germany or France or Spain, I think you'd have been delighted to see that kind of football being played.
The whole aspect of going back to Glasgow was terrific. All the way in, there were people greeting us. They weren't all Celtic supporters, but I think the people of Glasgow just wanted to turn out and show their appreciation. But when we came down here and came back into this bit, then it all came alive. And that was the lovely thing about it was, you know, Celtic for me have always had this all-embracing attitude that they all want the club to succeed. Players, management, directors, fans, in particular fans. And it seemed as though the fans just wanted to welcome. It was like a family party. That's what it was like. It was brilliant.
Celtic Park had never seen scenes like it, as throngs of supporters hailed the conquering heroes as they brought the European Cup home to paradise.
It's true that the people who formed this club looked very far ahead. At a time when the biggest gate was about 12,000, they built a ground to accommodate 70,000 people. I don't think we'd be as clever to look as far ahead as these people did in these days. But again, I don't think the old people could envisage such changes in the game.
When Celtic moved 200 yards across Janefield Street to the stadium's present site, one observer, commenting upon its proximity to the cemetery, remarked that it was like leaving the graveyard and entering paradise.
All clubs have to have a spiritual attachment to the area in which they operate, the community in which they gain their existence. And the East End of Glasgow is Celtic's home. It's where the club was brought into being. It was originally formed to serve 3 parishes in the East End of Glasgow. So there is an overwhelming bond between the club and that particular part of the city. It would have been alien for Celtic to have gone somewhere else.
It's not only the spiritual home, it's just good business to stay here. I think we already have invested a great deal in this building in the past. And I think it's a very good location, it's what people are used to. So we've got to start with what we've got that's good and build something on it that's excellent.
Construction has already begun on Celtic's new home. When completed, it will be the largest club stadium in Britain with a capacity of 60,000. By season 95-96, the first stage will be complete, with seating for 34,000. The following season will see the completion of the stadium, when the 2 ends will be in place. Demolition work has been completed, and the creation of a stadium for the next millennium has begun.
Work all night in the cold and dark, build that dream. Work all night at the Celtic Park, build that team. Hibs and Cowlers are on their way, can't be there.
It is a time of great change for Celtic Park. Many will mourn the passing of a place where they celebrated great occasions and applauded great sides.
Big Joe always wanted this place to be developed, because I remember when after we won the European Cup, the jungle then disappeared and it was replaced with the modern structure. He wanted to do that all the time and he wanted to continue. And I think he had difficulty putting his aims forward with the board because they were a bit restrictive on what he wanted to do. I think had Jock got his way, and this would have been a much more modern stadium.
When you were stood there and the hairs in the back of your neck would stand out, if you're waiting in that tunnel ready to go out in a match, the boys in the jungle, they could see you and then they just erupted, then the whole ground erupted.
But when you've played in front of the jungle, that was the first thing we seen when we come out the tunnel, their faces. And funny enough, over the years you could actually see the young ones becoming grown-ups.
Well, you could, because you used to stand there.
You went out the jungle there.
I wonder who he got to bury.
Well, we had to stand there, Bobby and I, because if the ball was on this side of the park, no chance of getting it, because Murdoch would only get to Johnson, and Johnson wouldn't get to Napton.
I hated that just cruising it in the middle.
Looking at it, for us it's a dream come true. A brand new stadium taking place here. And I think we all wanted Celtic to stay here. Forget about moving here, there, anywhere else. This is a home of Celtic. We wanted it. It'll be lovely to see a completed stadium here. No doubt about that.
And it doesn't matter who has the shares. They people that's on the terraces, the jungle that stand on either end, they own Celtic Football Club.
They are the club.
They are Celtic Football Club.
No more we'll stand and cheer you on the slopes of Celtic Park. No more we'll stand and cheer you on the slopes of Celtic Park.
The introduction of all-seated stadia has affected every club in the country. It remains to be seen whether Celtic supporters can recreate the atmosphere which inspired successive teams to so many memorable victories.
Well, you might think Celtic have scored, judging by that tremendous chorus. Here's Lennox. A goal. It's a goal for Celtic. Shot over the line, I think, by Wallace. It's Celtic 1, Rangers 1.
The noise that particular night was unbelievable, because we knew that we had to win that particular game, and it was a great thing to score against Rangers at any time, but this particular night when the place was just bedlam.
Wallace. Muddock.
And that night was a superb night, it was a marvellous night, and the noise from, you know, the jungle, the atmosphere in those days was great.
There's Lennox. It's a goal by Lennox, right out of the blue. Celtic 3, Rangers 1, practically on the final whistle.
A lot of people don't realise how hard that team worked. I mean, it just wasn't a thing on the park, we done our thing. We worked hard Monday to Friday, really, really hard, worked hard on the track, worked hard on the training ground, and we were fit. We scored a lot of goals late on because the crowd got behind us and helped us in the last 10-15 minutes, but also because the boys were fit enough to go and do it. We played Morton here one season to win the league, and we're drawing one each late on in the game, and we knew from the crowd that Rangers had won at Kilmarnock.
Well, we're in injury time now. You think it must go in? It has, it's a goal! And Lennox has scored in injury time. And Parkhead are just on berserk.
Would have played in a bit of spare ground because of the passion they had for the game, to be fortunate enough to be involved with Celtic Football Club. But each and every player wanted to play for this club.
All taking this. A good one, there's McNeil, Murdoch's up there. Wallace, a goal!
Jock believed in attacking football, and it didn't matter who scored the goals, as long as they got into position to score them. It looked as if that he had so many people to choose from, and they were all potential winners.
There's Old, it's a goal. Goal by Old, following up beautifully. Celtic 2, Hibs nothing. Johnson with it is a good one. Lennox has scored. Here's Old. There's a beautiful pass to Lennox. He must score. He has. Here's Chalmers. And a great goal. Lennox finishing it off. Now Johnston, everybody retreating to the penalty area, and up comes Craig. Bad one by Craig's a goal. A bad cross, but it worked out well for him eventually. Oh, this is brilliant stuff from Johnston.
They paid their money, and you were an entertainer, really. At the end of the day, that was your stage. And they deserved it, a wee bit special, a wee bit extra. And I knew it. And I used to get it, and you go retired and come back again, you'd 3 or 4 running about you, and you just in the business, you know, for the fun. When you got that, and you got that feeling, and the buzz going through your place, it's tremendous.
As usual, Billy McNeil will be up for this. There's McNeil, it's a goal. A goal by McNeil as the Rangers defend. Absolutely smacked, brilliantly taken by McNeil. And within a minute of the start of the game, Celtic
Celtic have got one goal up. Hesitancy. Here's Lennox, almost with a gift. It's a goal by Lennox. Number 2 for Celtic. Lennox the scorer. Hold. Smith with them. And it goes to Lennox again. Nearly number 3. Greg. Against Connolly. What a chance for Connolly. It's a goal. It's a goal by Connolly. Person. Billy McNeil right in position again. There by Gemmell. On towards all. No offside. McKinnon appealing for offside, but no. Here's Chalmers. It's a great goal by Chalmers.
1971 saw the last appearance of the Lisbon Lions as a team. Redevelopment of the stand was in progress as the team was led out by Ronnie Simpson, who had announced his retirement. Auld and Clark departed shortly after. Jock Stein had already anticipated the gradual breakup of the Lisbon team and had available to him a group of talented youngsters known collectively as the Quality Street Gang.
We all had our own targets to get into the team sort of as quick as possible. There was a sort of race between one another, but when it came to it together, there was a bond between us whereby we'd all supported one another almost to any lengths on the park when required.
Lennox. And they save for the goal. It's in the goal.
Among those breaking into the team were Lou Macari, Danny McGrain, Davy Hay, George Connolly and Kenny Dalglish.
I mean, anybody could have played in the first team at that time then. It was just in the aftermath of the Lisbon Lions, obviously. And, I mean, the lads there were great players, but they're also great people, and they were very helpful to likes myself and other younger lads that were there at the time. When I first came into the side, we played Rangers 3 times in 2 weeks. At Ibrox, when they were developing the stand at Celtic Park.
Penalty kick. Dalglish against McCloy.
And to play 3 times at Ibrox in a fortnight was a bit nerve-wracking to say the least. But as I say, we got over it and we won 3 games, so everything got off to a good start.
The kick to be taken by Callaghan. McNeil going in. McNeil has scored. Billy McNeil has scored. Bobby Muddock with it. It scores a goal. A goal by Dean. Ball coming off his arm, but Brownlee just getting to that, or does he? Dean's it's in. What a chance. Must be a goal. No. He scored. Deans has scored number 3. Long fighting hard, but again you see somebody at the back for Celtic. And Deans is onside. Great chance for Deans, it's a goal. Dalglish. Bit of a one to Craig. Craig into the middle to Deans. McCarry it was who got it. Craig. Again, the big gaps in the Hibs defence. Craig squaring it. In comes Connolly.
A stunning hat-trick by Dixie Deans contributed to the most convincing Scottish Cup final win this century.
I mean, everybody chipped in and everybody helped. And you were a Celtic player. You might not have been a first-team player, but you were a Celtic player. And that was important. And you were made to feel important. And you were made to feel part of the club. And I think that is reflected in the happiness it was about the club at that particular time.
Jock Stein had steered Celtic to 9 league championships in a row, an unsurpassed feat. He had done so with mostly homegrown talent.
Glasgow Celtic's the most successful football club in the world. Yeah. Nobody can dispute that.
What about Ajax, Benfica, teams like that?
Well, they haven't won 9 successive leagues. Celtic's nearly certain to win the league 9 successive times. And they've been in the League Cup 10 successive years, final. I mean, who can do that? They've won the European Cup, and they've been it and all that, and they've played all the teams.
Come on now, Ward, get it sorted out, come on.
It was marvellous for us, like Joe, and for myself especially. It wasn't really until after I'd left that he became a friend, really, and you see him in a different light then. He was very loyal and respectful and really appreciative of what anybody tried to do for him. But obviously as a manager he had to show a different side, and if you stepped out of line you were bang in trouble. I mean, there's many a time he sent you back to get your hair cut again because it wasn't cut short enough. But that was only part of growing up and part of the discipline that you need to become a professional footballer. You'd like to think that in your future life, not only in football but outside of football, that a lot of what Jock Stein had preached to you had got through, and I'm sure certainly it's made myself and I'm sure a lot of the other lads better people, not only in football terms but also in their life.
Come on, Rob. Come on, come on. Come on, Rob. Oh, steady, leave room for Dixie. Oh,
What's your feet this time, Paul?
leave room. Go on, John. Oh, Jesus. Steady, Rob. Oh, come on, we'll finish up with Dixie. Come on. That's us, lads.
In the environs of Celtic Park, many outstanding young players were nurtured to maturity, but one stood out above all.
It's a great chance for Celtic. He's there.
Celtic supporters were privileged to witness the flowering of a young talent in Kenny Dalglish. He would become one of the most electrifying performers in British football.
A great break for Celtic here. 2 against 1. And it's there. Dalglish running well on it. Let fly. There he is again. Oh, what a goal. Point-blank difference. Almost dispossessed. Dalglish. Deans. Back to Dalglish. And the shot superbly struck. What a brilliant goal by Kenny Dalglish.
It was such a standout that you just could do nothing but, you know, try and learn and try and look at him. But some of the things he did, you knew you couldn't possibly attempt. That was just Kenny. It was so amazing that you could be so excited by somebody getting the ball. Every time he didn't get the ball, I used to feel an urgency that, you know, just keep giving Dalglish the ball.
Dalglish. Slipping Miller. Still there. What an astonishing goal by Kenny Dalglish.
Maybe Scots are biased at these things, but I tend to think that Dalglish played his most individual football with Celtic. He would score the most extraordinary goals, solo efforts. He was a wonderful player for Liverpool, but I think maybe he was at his most thrilling when he was with Celtic as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, and it was nice to think that people in Glasgow saw the very best of him.
Right to McDonald. Dalglish. It's a great goal.
Kenny Dalglish was transferred to Liverpool for a record fee of £440,000 and went on to earn the same affection from the Kop as that accorded to him by the Jungle. He returned to Celtic Park with Liverpool the following year for Jock Stein's testimonial match. With the Lisbon team present, Jock said an emotional farewell to supporters, in whose hearts his memory will live forever. It was to those same supporters that Kenny Dalglish and Liverpool turned to in the darkest hour of the English club's history. The city of Liverpool and the nation had been stunned 2 weeks before by the tragic death of 95 Liverpool fans at Hillsborough. Kenny Dalglish turned to Celtic to provide the opposition for a benefit match.
Liverpool went back to play Celtic after the Hillsborough disaster, when it was the first game, and both sets of fans joined together and it gave both teams a tremendous reception.
60,000 fans had gathered to pay tribute to the dead in a unique and highly emotional occasion.
The important thing was the reaction of the crowd and the way that they showed their appreciation for each other and the way that they accepted Liverpool Football Club up to Celtic Park that day.
Well, I'm sure that these very familiar and warm sounds coming from the terracings will act as a huge tonic to these Liverpool players who've come through a long, dark tunnel in the past couple of weeks.
I think that's something that will live in your mind for a long, long time.
Dalglish, that's great play, Barnes. Tries to curl it right, that must be a goal, it is. Kenny Dalglish, would you believe? Oh. And he loved it. Isn't it marvellous to see a broad smile in that man's face again?
The return of Billy McNeil as manager immediately revived the club's fortunes. An astonishing 4-2 win over Rangers at Ibrox in 1979 to clinch the championship had been the springboard for the success his side had achieved.
Those 5 years we achieved a fair bit because we had saw possibly the best period of Aberdeen and Dundee United, and we achieved three league titles and a Scottish Cup win and a League Cup win, so we achieved an awful lot. More importantly, we had the basis of a good side.
Robin, a good position for Celtic, and there's a goal. Nicholas has done it. 1-0 for Celtic, 23 minutes gone. Robin to take it. Second chance. Cleland down, and that's him. One of a cloud, number 2.
Not one of these players that like getting beat. Training matches, sprints, long runs, every single player at the Celtic team wanted to win it. And that just came right onto a match situation. And any side playing against us always knew they were in a match.
Anderson in again, playing very well for Hibs. His interception very timely. Positional sounds very good. But Robin has it now on the outside. Danny McGrain, there's Bunch, will let fly again. It's a great goal. Oh yes. Robin, what's a beautiful ball. McCluskey, second chance. That's it. mcstay. 1-0. Beautiful ball by mcstay. Yes, number 29, Charlie Nicholas. Go through to Burns. This must be, yes. 3-0. Burns to the outside, that was very neat. Sinclair stumbled a little, recovers well. Oh, no cover for the McGalvey, and he punishes Hibs and Howard. Celtic once again picking up these balls in midfield, and that's an excellent ball by Burns. Robin. Will they let fly? Goes a bit too far and it's gone in.
There's an affinity between the Celtic players and the Celtic supporters that really doesn't exist anywhere else. And I felt it. I played most of my career right out in front of the jungle. And I'd like to think I had a great relationship with them. But there is a bond there between the Celtic players and the supporters. I think you only have to look at the way Celtic players celebrate when they score.
Robin coming up on it. It's a goal by Nicholas. Charlie Nicholas opens a scoring for Celtic.
Nicholas was tremendous. The most exciting talent I've seen in this country for years and years.
Charlie broke into the team as a 19-year-old. At that stage, he was possibly as good as any young player in Europe. He really was.
You get into a dressing room where you've got so many characters and so many people who know how Celtic work, i.e. Danny McGrain, Tommy Burns, Roy Akins, who make you feel that you really deserve to be there. But 3 months before, I was still going to the jungle. Although I was involved with Celtic, I was still going there, and it really transformed within really like 6 months. I was for jungle into first team player, and there's no words to explain how that happened.
Into Nicholas, who ran very intelligently in. He's aiming for goal himself this time. And a brilliant goal. An absolutely superb goal by Nicholas.
But I think Celtic lost a real tremendous player that could have built a team round about. But again, it was typical of a negative attitude, because that is the type of investment that should have been made. That if it was going to take some money to keep him, that money should have been made available. I tried very hard to persuade him to stay, because I still feel to this day, from a development point of view, it was a wrong time for Charlie to move.
Nicholas left the club for Arsenal in 1983. Shortly afterwards, Billy McNeill left the club after differences with the board.
No manager likes to lose good players, and I'm not any different from anybody else. But I always felt that this club did not invest. I felt investment should have been made then. I know Big Jock suffered the same problems, and it was a difficult one. I used to feel that rather than working with the board, I was often working against them. And I think that was the time that investment should have been in.
Davy Hay took up the post of Celtic manager, but almost immediately he came in for criticism.
So maybe occasionally I was questioned in my commitment with Celtic because of my nature, or my laid-back so-called attitude, but that was never the case. As time progressed as Celtic manager, I became more and more committed and more determined to do well for the fans, really.
The Scottish Cup of 1985 was the 100th year of the competition, adding to the sense of occasion.
And this could be very interesting.
But at that time, Davy Hay, who was a very popular manager amongst the Celtic players, his job was on the line, and we really felt that we had to win the cup for him as much as anything else. And the club had gone a couple of years without winning anything, and the supporters, we knew we would down one as well.
And only twice in the history of the Scottish Cup have goals been scored direct from a free kick. Is this a bit of history? It is! David Provan!
And I've never